What's going on, YouTube? You know what I realized? I realized there's a false sense of luxury asserting itself in the U.S. What do I mean by that? That divide is happening to where owning a home is now bringing a false sense of luxury. Owning a home is not a default step in the process to the American dream or lifestyle. It is now a upper middle class, low upper class sort of thing, which is not true. So last week I was looking at, what type of household income is in the US as an average. You have your average, you have your median. For those who paid attention to math and understand the difference. But you have that for your income, you have that for, all sorts of numbers. But I was looking at income versus the standard price of a home. Because I believe, and I'm under the bias to where to stay in America and not just develop net worth, equity, right, to be comfortable and get to a place where milestones is being checked off and debt lessens, right? Buying a home is pivotal. You need a place to live, and renting will eventually price someone out. So is a home as we get into this, but overall, if you can maneuver, getting that home is key. Getting that home is key. It may not be your dream home. Some people call it a starter home, but getting that home is key. Because over 30 years, okay, you pay interest, you pay debt, but yeah, that rent over 30, 40 years, as long as you need shelter in the US, will always be more than that mortgage, and or will increase, even if you get a lower rent initially. You'll have your family increasing, right? So it's gonna eventually price you out, and right, you're at either negative on an extreme end, or your retirement fund is hit because you're still renting where you can pay off your mortgage. Anyway, my spiel on that. Some people may disagree, but that's my spiel. Anyway, so there's a certain income that you need to get a house, right? Because you got interest rates, right? Everything plays a part in the purchasability, not affordability, the purchase ability that, FHA, conventional lenders assert on buying a home. There is a difference between purchasability and affordability. That purchasability is meeting all factors via paperwork to getting your home, but affordability is how you are managing the ratio between your exact expenses, which includes a mortgage, to your net income, not gross. Purchasability is only looking at gross income and assumed expenses. Affordability is looking at net income and exact expenses. And people never have that buffer. They don't understand that buffer or set a percentage of error or increase to understand that, okay, I got to make sure that my net pay in my exact, right, or estimated but accurate count of expenses, well, again, with some percent error, is in ratio of my gross pay with my assumed expenses. Because these lenders don't have time. They don't know every single dollar that's coming out of your account day to day, right? You know that. So people get affected by that. Anyway, another spiel. So in 2020, and I'm not even going back farther, where you could get a house, a decent sized 2 or 3 bedroom home for probably $100,000, $125,000, if not less, off of a $30,000 or $40,000 mortgage. I'm not talking about back, in the mid late 90s or 80s. I'm just talking about 5 years ago. 5 years ago. 5. Which came by fast, right? Kind of the peak, kind of COVID era, right? Where homes, man, like you could get a nice home at a decent price with a great interest rate, lowest historically, at that time. So at that time, right, the average income in the US was around $59,000. Or excuse me, let me backtrack. The average income at that time was around $66,000, excuse me. And you only needed to make about $59,000 a year. These are gross numbers, to afford a $275,000 home, which again, in COVID, right? For a lot of, depending on where you're at, like here in Florida, $275,000 5 years ago can get you up to a 4 or 5 bedroom home, depending on the builder, the exact location in Florida, which is substantial. Can get you a really, really nice home at that price point. So what does that look like month to month, right? Without getting on into the details, because I'm not a lender, and I'm not an agent or a loan officer, but a gross pay of about $60,000 a year is about $5,000 a month. At that time, during COVID, peak COVID, a $275,000 home can allow you to have a mortgage with PMI at that 3 to 3.5 interest rate on the higher end. Can get you a mortgage of about $1,400, let's say $1,350, right? So that mortgage now is only, again, purchasability, right? Between what you, the lender, and the loan officer is agreeing to, right? $5,000 gross, your mortgage is $1,350, right? I mean, you're about 28, no more than 30%, if I'm doing the math right, at your mortgage to overhead ratio. So that's good. That's not bad. You know, you got a nice home that you can live in for years. You can now manipulate for whatever your reason is and pay $1,300 a month for a 4 or 5 bedroom house. That's crazy, dude. You try to sell it in a year or two, and right, you could profit at, I don't know, another 50 to 75% of what you've bought it for, because it was just peak COVID where shit was just kind of booming. But anyway, that's what that looked like. So that's one it's not, I'm not gonna say it's easy to make $5,000 a month, but that's just a household. So if both people are making $12, $13 an hour, right, with an okay savings, with something just enough for a down payment, they're making that income, and they're buying at peak COVID, right? They could get a $275,000. They could probably skate with a $300,000 home, right? Depending on how much they're willing to put down, right? Fast forward to 5 years later, 2025, that same home is now costing $415,000. It raised 52%. It raised 52%. This is just a national average for a home that's around 1,900 square feet, 3-4 bedroom. Again, there's going to be skews. There's going to be, you know, that average is going to be different state to state, but this is just a national number. So that same home has increased by 52%, while income has increased by 10%. That divide just naturally happened over 5 years. There's no way that same income of $60,000 a year or $5,000 gross can even get you in the door to getting that same home at that $275,000 price point 5 years ago. You can't do it. Can't do it, man. You can't do it. You would have to almost double your income. That same home to get you in the door, right, outside of credit history, work history, savings, your debt to income ratio, your DTI, that same home can be afforded by a gross salary, again household, but gross salary nevertheless, of around $102,000, $105,000 a year. And again, that's going to differ. Like in the southeast, right, closer to the $100,000 number, you can maybe escape with $95K, right? But in the west, right, north, you know, that's $150,000 to $200,000 to get an average home. A standard implementation in your life, because you have a family or looking to have a family to get a home. It's now just with inflation, the economy, how just things are just driving this market. It's affecting you to just progress by default. By default, man. You know, like again, false sense of luxury. There's only 40%, which is an okay number. Should be higher, but there's only 40% of American households who make 100,000, and that ain't even enough, right? So, what's insane to me is why is this national divide happening? You know, like it's insane. You know, to be somewhere, and we're talking about 60 months. We're talking about 60 months where your income has to double, right? So if you're 22, 23, if you're getting out of college, right, in 2020, a lot of people won't make 60K off rip, right? Or, you know, a couple who's graduating around the same time, whether they're looking to get married or not, they want to buy a house within the next year after graduating. So 2020, 2021, they want to buy a home. Okay, they may need 4 or 5 years to get to where they need to be income-wise, right? And this is just buying a home, not just affording kids, lifestyle, savings, all this stuff. This is just buying a home where you have to have that. You should have. There's a assertion of a specific or minimum salary requirement. So if these guys, if that couple, if that person or household is looking to buy a home, like within 5 years, like they got to make sure that they get that income off rip in 5 years, or they can grow, right? They could be post 5 years from graduating college, right? Or anybody in this matter today, right? If you're just looking back in hindsight, you know, if you're not ready to buy a home 5 years later, 5 years earlier, and you had a 5-year plan of getting a home, well, I mean, how would you know in your plans that you gotta make now 100,000, 120,000 someplace, right? It's not easy to do that. It's not. It's like the system here in America, it's keeping you stuck, like with loopholes indirectly, right? It's like rent. You shouldn't be renting long term. That's became the norm, right? We became desensitized to renting because it's harder to buy, right? I've now rented out my second property because I'm done in America. For me, I'm done. I can't do it no more. Sat with my wife, thought about this. We're not doing this no more. So the house we just bought, we're renting it out. Why? Because that's the game we gotta play. That's the game we gotta play. We gotta get somebody else. We gotta implement somebody else to pay for our overhead. Why? Because that's the trickery in America. Get someone else to pay for your equity, or to provide you equity, right? Pay down the mortgage out of their pocket and hope appreciation does its thing, you know, at the same time, simultaneously. But you can't, I'm telling you, man, you can't. If you could get you a home, you get you a home. But It's not even the fact that prices are just increasing. Interest rates is being steadily high, right? It's around 7%. That's crazy. Everything doubled, right? The home, and again too, not only did the house price increase by 50%, that same type of house, the interest rate increased by 100%. So that mortgage that you could get at $1,350, you're now getting at around $3,000. It's insane. So obviously, right, people would just rent at $25,000 to $3,000. Some people would go as high as $35,000 to $4,000, because all you need to do is make double the income in a lot of places, right? Even on the lower end, $2,500, just make double the income. You got to make $5,000 a month. And all you do is, you have an okay credit, just put up 2 or 3 times the month to move in, and you're straight. And then you're okay if you have a decent landlord who's willing to work with you, from a lease to lease perspective. It's insane, but again, where is that money going to? It's going to the landlord, it's not going to the equity of your home. So again, owning a home is becoming a false sense of luxury. And it shouldn't. It shouldn't. Right? Do I regret buying my houses? No. I don't regret it. I went through the process. I've always wanted to, buy a home like most people. But I had to change the game a little bit. And a lot of things struck me in 2025, right? There's just no way. I just, for me, I know I have to keep maneuvering constantly in America. No matter where you live in America, you could live in West Virginia, is one of the most or least expensive places in America. And obviously California, right? Maybe one of the most expensive outside of New York, Seattle, I don't know, Washington, right? Like, it don't matter where you live. You got to continually maneuver. You got to continually work, whether it's one job, whether it's 3. And a lot of people who are doing that don't have a home, don't have a mortgage. They have rent. Plus they have a car payment. And I believe the increase of buying a new vehicle is happening. So obviously a new vehicle will increase your payments, right? I mean, I was looking at, I think end of 2024, like first quarter of 2025, like that average like monthly payment was 4 figures. It's in the thousands, dude. Or dudettes. It's in the thousands, man. Like people are paying for vehicles that's $1,000, $1,200, $1,500, bro. That's crazy. That's a mortgage. That could be a mortgage. That's half your rent, if not most of your rent. You know what I'm saying? Insane. So we're just, I worship people, right? This ain't just about the black community. This is just people who are living in America to maneuver. Don't let your neighbors, your friends, your family, your employers dictate how you live. You figure that out and maneuver, man, because things are gonna price you out. People are staying in storages, in their cars, in their hotels. This isn't pre-planned. This isn't to save money to buy a house. This is because they can't afford to even live or pay rent, right? People can't stay on jobs. This is where things are getting at. These are people with degrees. This is where it's crazy. 20, 30, 40 years ago, go to college, get a degree, get a good job. That's not happening. I know people with masters and doctorates. I know people with masters and doctorates who can't get a job, who can't buy a house. That doesn't make any sort of sense. The game's rigged and screwed up. The system is flawed. You gotta change the game and make the narrative work for you, man. The longer you stay in America, the more figuring out and playing chess you gotta do. I don't want to keep playing chess every year. I don't want to have to keep playing a game. I want to log out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to keep playing chess. I don't even like playing chess. Like, I don't like board games like that like I used to. So I'm bored of this game, dude. Like, it's crazy. Like, this is ridiculous. To survive, not to get ahead. This is for survival. Playing chess for survival, not because you want to have $100,000 in your account and be above average, or you want to retire early. This is to simply survive. This is not even simply to just be on target. There's not even an on target environment anymore. You can't even retire on time. You can't even retire. You can't survive. You can't survive. So how you gonna retire later, dude? It's crazy. So you guys you figure figure the system, man, because it's getting tricky. But I'm not staying in America no more, so I got someone else to cover our overhead. I can't do it. I'm not doing it. I'm tired of this shit. This is dumb. This is dumb, but we're so desensitized and we're just in this rat race, so to speak, and it's like, you know, can you see ahead? Can you see that light at the end of the tunnel? It's hard, man. It's getting dim. And I've been talking about this for years, and so is others. But 2025 is becoming a different beast, and I'm hoping people can kind of just see some of these negativities that's just kind of popping up, whether it's directly affecting you, directly affecting your family, or affecting your community. Like, just see this stuff. Regular things that should be happening in your life because you are planning for it and you are working towards it, you're struggling to achieve, should just be generally happening, and it's not. So how can you advance? How can you save money? How can you invest? How can you strive to do things that average people can't if you can't even be average? It's dumb, man. So that's my rant for right now. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. But shit I be thinking about day to day. Make shit happen, y'all. All right, peace.